I wanted to see the Devils respond in a big way against the Flyers, and they did so and more. We have a lot to break down in today's episode of Locked On Devils, and I also have a bunch of sound bites to share. Buckle up, everybody.
You're Locked On Devils, your daily podcast on the New Jersey Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, this is Bryce Salvador, and you're Locked On Devils with Trey Matthews.
Elliott scores! Oh, Stevens stepped up, nailed him. Brodor's got the puck. What a shot. The Devils win the Stanley Cup.
Alrighty now, what is up, New Jersey? Welcome back to the Locked On Devils podcast here at the Locked On Network. I'm your host, College Hockey Play announcer, Devils are Pucks and Pitchforks, and also part-time credentialed media member, Trey Matthews, back from the Prudential Center, and boy, oh boy, do I have a game to break down. The New Jersey Devils shut out the Philadelphia Flyers by a score of 5-0. Coming into this game, I wanted to see the Devils with more energy, and they delivered. To quote Rocky IV, because I feel as though it's important because the Flyers hail from Philadelphia, I must break you. And the Devils did that, especially in the second period. In the first segment, I will share my main takeaways from the game. I will also share a brief one-on-one interaction I had with Stefan Noesen because he was in the midst of it and he had to serve a few penalties as a result. In the second segment, like I do with every post-game recap victory, I will list some players that caught my eye, first honorable mentions, and then my personal 3 stars of the game. And then in the third and final segment, I will compare the stats and give the Devils a letter grade. All right. I said in the previous episode that I wanted to see the Devils come out with more energy, more assertiveness, because in their previous matchup, also against the Flyers, this time it took place in Philadelphia, the Devils had little to no energy throughout the entirety of the game. And by the time they actually did get a pep in their step, it was too little, too late. And the Flyers defeated them 4-2. And it was an uninspiring loss. John Tortorella explained to me post-game that what the Flyers were trying to do was clog up neutral ice, especially with a third man there. So that way you don't create an open lane for someone like Luke Hughes. So I was saying coming into this matchup, the Devils have got to find a way to pick apart that defense, and they did so. They didn't get off to the fastest of starts because the first period was in danger of being a repeat as to what happened in the city of brotherly love. The Devils' defense, offense, nothing was really coming together. Jake Allen, he was keeping them in the game. He was the only positive thing in that period. But toward the end of the first, the Devils were on a power play, and they seemed to have a surge. And unfortunately, they couldn't capitalize on anything to end the period, but that power play leaked over to the second period. So I was like, if the Devils are able to capitalize on that power play, I think that's going to do wonders for them, because if you recall the game in Philadelphia, the Devils were given a 4-minute power play rather early in the game, and it was abysmal. They couldn't generate anything. And the Flyers, despite being shorthanded, they were the ones creating some decent looks on Jake Allen. So I was hoping that the Devils wouldn't repeat their mistake from last time. And they didn't, because the second period, it was goals, penalties, goals, and more penalties. As you guys know, in between intermissions, I love to chat with Chico Resch, color commentator alongside Matt Loughlin for the Devils Radio Network. And Chico asked me in the second intermission, Trey, what's different about this game compared to the last one? He challenged me, and I was like, yeah, they're coming out with more energy. I think their breakout passes are good. He was like, no. that's generic. I want you to think about it. So he walked away momentarily, then he came back, and I was like, well, it seems like the Devils are playing with more physicality. And he was like, bingo. That's exactly what happened. The Devils, they scored 4 goals in the second period, 2 of them on the power play. And after Dawson Mercer scored the 4th goal of the game, out came Sam Ersson, the same Ersson that made 31 saves in Philadelphia. The Devils got to him this time around. And it started with a lot of physicality. There were 16 total penalties between both teams in this game, but 13 of them came from the second period. Physicality, physicality, physicality. It all started when Brendan Dillon laid a big hit on Owen Tippett. And worth mentioning that Tippett did not return the rest of the game. He went down the tunnel and he was nowhere to be seen. In the previous game, Chico told me that people like Nick Seeler, who had a big hit on Nathan Bastian, and Travis Konechny, they were pressuring the Devils a lot. And with this game now being at the Prudential Center, the Devils had to flip a switch. They had to assert themselves. They had to have the mentality like, this is our house. We're going to protect it, and it's going to be an absolute dogfight. The Flyers are a very gritty team, no pun intended. But that's what John Tortorella likes to do. He gets the best out of the least likely players. He's a defensive-minded coach, and he is not afraid to be like that old school type of personality, get up all up in your grill and give you hell. So the Devils had to match it. Out comes Brian Hallinan in the lineup. Insert Curtis McDermott because you need that physicality, and that's exactly what the Devils did. I'm more than certain that the Devils had to make that a point of emphasis. And Scott Lawton, he wanted a piece of Jonas Siegenthaler. Unfortunately, Siegs didn't want to drop the mitts and go toe-to-toe with him. But, man, the Devils asserted themselves big time. There was a lot of face washes. There was a lot of pulling on each other's jerseys. It slowed down the game. I have to admit, it was a little frustrating seeing the amount of penalties being assessed left and right, seeing a bunch of players get double minors. But you know what? Sheldon Keefe talked about it post-game, which is that energized the Devils. And also the crowd energized the Devils. The Devils had to protect home ice, and that's exactly what they did. Now, I'm sure you don't want to just hear my perspective of the matter. I had the chance to conduct a one-on-one interview with Stefan Noesen post-game, and we talked about the physicality. We talked about what this win means. We talked about how the Devils turn it around from here, especially with some key players out. Here's what he had to share with me post-game.
Big win against the Flyers. How does this change the momentum for you guys moving forward? Because the past 30 days have been a bit of a slump.
Yeah, it's just kind of getting back to our game. I thought tonight was a good way to, to reestablish the way we play and be physically engaged into games. And I think that was kind of lacking there for a little bit. And I think we were just trying to float by games. And this league, you can't really do that. You have to really attack it head on. And tonight was one of those where we, took the bull by the horns and kind of just went after them. And, we obviously knew they were going to fight back. It's the team that they built. And playing them last game and then coming into our building today, we just wanted to, set the tone.
Talk me through that second period, because the physicality, especially after Brendan Dillon's hit, really seemed to elevate, and there were a lot of penalties between both respective teams.
Yeah, kind of just what I said. It's just, getting physically engaged in the game. And, it's part of the reason why we brought Dilly in, to be a physical presence back there and set that tone. And, I think I took one too, but, it's just part of the game and getting physical and so getting chippy there. And it's the reason why we have guys like Dilly, guys like Jeremy, in our lineup to, protect us and to, really stir the pot.
Nico Heischer's out, Eric Halla's out, Jacob Markstrom's out. What are some of the things you guys have been working on in practice to try to replace them in a sense? Because all three of them are very important to the roster.
Yeah, you're not going to replace guys like that, right? I think it's more just, being together as a team, rising to the occasion. The first game obviously was, and without Nico, really was that Philly game, and felt like we didn't really do that. Tonight we did. It was a good effort by all 20 guys, and Jaker was kicking pretty well, and holding on the fort till Mark and those guys get back.
All right, last one. How is the Four Nations break going to be like a mental cleanser for you guys? Do you feel as though after it you guys are going to be more rejuvenated and ready to battle in the second half?
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I say we're looking forward to, but it's obviously been a pretty rough month for us. But it's good to face adversity during the season. I think without facing a little bit of adversity, you just kind of coast through it. And if you eventually get into playoffs, it's you can look back and see and remember those times that you did go through adversity together as a team, and you come out the other side of it. And today is one step of it. Month starting up here, it's a good time to get some refresher. Make sure that the families are. The wives are taking a grunt. Pretty grueling little first half here. It's been pretty hectic with the travel and everything. So, good time to reset. Get away with everybody, and we got 5 games left here. Just looking to make sure we take care of it.
Stefan Noesen is one of my favorite players to interview. He always makes the time for me, and I'm glad that he provided that sort of insight. He was in the midst of it because he was given 2 minor penalties at once. He was given roughing and interference. So I felt as though Noesen had a good perspective on it, and I'm glad he gave me that insight. But the main takeaway from this game, physicality, and I'm glad that the Devils did not roll over to the Flyers. And it took them 3 times, but the old saying is third time's a charm. The Devils finally beat Philadelphia this season. All right, I'm going to list some players that caught my eye momentarily, but before we continue, let me tell you guys about Game Time. I've actually used Game Time before to purchase myself some MLB and NBA tickets, and the NFL playoffs, as we all know, Super Bowl is right around the corner, so if you're looking for some Super Bowl tickets, maybe you should use Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. It filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I recently used Game Time to once again purchase myself some tickets to some sporting events. I always have a blast. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. What time is it? It's game time, everybody. All right. This game was intense, and the Devils put Thor's hammer down on the Flyers, beating them 5-0. And it's a shame that I can only name 3 stars. But before we get to that, here are some honorable mentions. First honorable mention goes to Jack Hughes. He had a multi-point performance, 1 goal, 1 assist. Jesper Bratt, he also had a multi-point performance, 2 assists. Timo Meier, 2 assists. Worth mentioning that Timo Meier did score in the previous matchup against the Flyers in Philadelphia. So it seems as though Meier is starting to elevate his game a little bit more ever since Nico Hischier went down with his injury. And I would also say that Meier played really well in the first period, and there wasn't a lot of positive takeaways from that respective period. So just want to give credit to Timo Meier. Nathan Bastian, power play goal to make it a 3-0 game. Fun fact for you, that was Nathan Bastian's first power play goal since March 8th, 2022, when the Devils defeated the Colorado Avalanche. So it's been a few years since Nathan Bastian has scored on the man advantage, or his nickname, Bubble Bass, like the character from SpongeBob, because in the prior game, he got roughed up by Nick Seeler, which goes back to my point in the first segment, where the Flyers were asserting themselves on the Devils. Digressing a little bit, Bubble Bass had some vengeance in this game. And remember, Bastion has dealt with a broken jaw already this season. Good thing he did not re-aggravate it. All right. Lots of players that caught my eye, but I narrowed it down to 3 stars. My third star goes to Merce Dog, and here's why. I would say that Dawson Mercer has really elevated his game when it matters most, because remember, a few games ago, he scored 2 goals against the Boston Bruins, and the Devils needed that win to turn their fortune around. And he scored an electrifying goal to push the lead up to 4, and that was the ultimate dagger that got Ersson kicked out of the game. So Dawson Mercer is my third star. Here's what he had to say to us post-game.
Just the performance of Jake sort of allowing everyone to get their footing. What did you make of particularly him in this game in that first period?
It was unbelievable by him. This is a game that we really needed. We wanted to make sure we got a win, played good here on home ice after playing them a few nights ago. We wanted to have a good start, and obviously Jaker really set the tone, and he kind of showed exactly what we had to do now to get that win. And I think the guys just really rolled off of his compete level there from that first period. And it really felt from top to bottom that, special teams 5-on-5, things were really clicking and working. How much of a group effort was this? 100%. Well, if you look at special teams, that's a big part of the game. It can win you or lose you the game, and overall, just from top to bottom of the lineup, I think we were all on the same page tonight with the mentality. And like I said earlier, we really needed this, and I think all the guys have the right mindset here tonight. What have you enjoyed about playing with Timo and the way you guys have been able to connect? Yeah, it was great. Obviously since the break and with the things that we've been going, we tried some things new, and obviously I think he just said, they asked him the question. They were like, oh, you passed the Mercer all the goals in the last ones, and I was like, all right, I'll probably get the same question. But it's great. Like, obviously when we can find each other and make opportunities, it's great. So no one's complaining when we put the puck in the net.
I felt like you guys really got energized from Dylan when he didn't lay that down Tippett.
I think, motivation comes in different forms, like obviously hits, goals, like defense, and obviously that definitely was a big wake-up in the game to set the tone, and pretty much, like I said, it was those things are really game changers, even though it might not seem like it on the scoreboard, but definitely did rise us to a new level.
And how important was it to just respond to this kind of win, not just, a dominant effort, but a shutout?
Yeah, well, just like I said, obviously you want to get the wins, and if you can keep the puck out of your net and get a shutout for the goalie, and when he's playing unbelievable, and then shut it down in the third, it's great. Like, that's what we're looking for. We had enough goals to win, so that's the main focus. So you just don't want to let them get any.
For you, finding your shot, have you been doing anything different, or is this kind of just maybe lucky bounces, or trying to find different areas to score?
I think you just always try to keep it the same. Like, I'm trying to put it in every time I get it, and get to the right areas and find opportunities where I can create shots and put myself in a good situation like that, and just, for instance, like that one, just keep my feet moving, being ready for Timo if he's going to shoot it or give it to me, and lucky enough on that one I got it and put it in. So just grinding it and making sure that I go around the net, that's where the puck goes.
My second star goes to Jake Allen, and we've talked about it before. Jake Allen has to elevate his game because Jacob Markstrom is out for an extended period of time. His previous 2 starts, I'm sure if you were to ask him, wasn't really his best, not his worst. I'm sure the team in front of him could have performed a little bit better, but what a way to answer on back, especially since the Flyers gave Allen hell in the last matchup. A shutout. It's his 3rd shutout this season. He is now tied for 3rd most shutouts in the NHL, and he's also tied with Jacob Markstrom. Markstrom has 3 shutouts. Allen has 3 shutouts. Who's going to get number 4? Well, with Markstrom sidelined for an extended period of time, I think it's safe to say that Allen might get number 4 in the not-so-distant future. So, round of applause to Jake Allen for shutting the door on the Flyers, redeeming himself, and hopefully that's a confidence booster for him, because prior to the Bruins game, he was on a personal 6-game losing streak. And the game against the Canadiens, not his best effort. And the game against the Flyers in Philly, I'm sure he wished that he could have a few of those goals back. My first star goes to Luke Hughes. A lot of people were saying that the Devils should bench Luke Hughes. And I was like, no, the Devils are not a better team without Luke Hughes. Luke had a multi-point performance, but his goal in the second period, wowzer, coast to coast, and he looked off his own brother. The Hughes brothers were on a 2-on-1 odd man rush, and Jack was demanding for the puck, but Luke was like, no, I'm going to shoot it myself. And it was an unassisted goal. So Luke Hughes took it upon his shoulders to make the initiative to shoot and cushion the Devils' lead a little bit. Devils were up 2-0, and Luke got himself his 4th goal of the season. He also got the secondary assist on Mercer's goal. So I was rather impressed with the outing from Luke Hughes. He really came alive in this particular matchup, and I would say it was one of his best performances of the season. So with that, Luke Hughes is my first star, and here's what he had to say to us post-game.
2 physical teams going at it, and I think a lot of our guys stepped up and kind of rose to the occasion, and I was proud of our group of how we came out in the second period.
And then how big, you talk about that second period, but how instrumental was Jake for you guys in that first?
Yeah, I mean, he's awesome. Definitely a peace of mind having him back there, and definitely saving us at some points. And it's easy to play with a guy like that. So we have great goalies, and yeah.
On your goal, any thought of deferring to your brother there, or how'd you sort of see that one play out?
I mean, I probably could have given him a touch in the neutral zone, but I think the way they played it, I think he wasn't really open in zone, and I just saw the shot and took it.
How big was Jake there in the first period?
Yeah, I mean, he's awesome. I think made some big saves for us, and definitely easy to play with a guy like that. And, we gotta keep doing a good job of putting him in good spots and not giving up too much.
What can you say about the physicality, because it seemed to elevate big time in the second period?
Yeah, I think they got a physical team, and we have a really physical team when we want to be. So, I think our physical guys definitely stepped up, and I mean they're great. So, Dermy and Dilly and all those guys were all over the ice. So.
One of the things that Timo was saying is that this felt like a real game, that you guys felt more like yourselves, like what you could be. Does this sort of fit in a good building block kind of moment?
Yeah, I think we were really good at winning games in different ways, before Christmas, and kind of have struggled to find goals after Christmas, and I think we're kind of getting back to our game before Christmas, and we just got to keep getting better every day as a team, and keep growing together.
I know it's all about the win, but is it kind of neat that you and Jack can score in the same game? Is that always a?
Yeah, I mean it's nice, but it's all about the win. And, big 2 points for our team, and we need this win. So we just got to keep going and keep growing together as a team.
Has it been a conscious effort of yours to improve when you're pinching, when you're staying back, and how has finding that balance helped you overall?
I think I'm just working on every aspect of my game. Nothing too crazy, but it's easy to do, and you're playing with good people and good partners. So those guys make it easy for me, whether it's Pash or Covey, and just got to keep going and keep getting better.
Luke, you said that it's starting to feel a little more familiar to what was before Christmas. What are some of those elements that you guys feel as a group right now, particularly maybe from this game?
Yeah, I think defending the rush really well and having good transition game, playing fast, getting through the neutral zone clean, and really getting in our forecheck, and I think we've been rimming a lot of pucks out and getting pucks to the D, and I think that's a good way for us to create offense, and I think that's been helping a little bit.
The Hughes brothers are special. And like I said, there was a lot of players who were very productive in this game, but I'm comfortable with my personal 3 stars. Okay, let's compare the stats, give the Devils a letter grade, and get out of here. Before I compare the stats, let me just say this. This is my 3rd year of being credentialed, and this game was one of, if not the best game I've ever covered. And that's saying something. I've covered the Devils' home opener. I've covered their playoff run. I've covered development camp. I've covered their offseason moves. I've been to all sorts of games all across the country. I've covered the Devils coast to coast. But this honestly was probably the most memorable game I've ever covered, and I had a lot of fun watching it in the press box. Albeit the second period was really slow with the amount of penalties being assessed, but I honestly did not mind. This might be one of the Devils' best performances this season, because a lot of people have been saying the Devils have been too soft the last few games. Well, I think they put you on notice and they reminded you who the hell they are. They are an aggressive team, and in the words of Jersey Joe, they have a lot of Sasquatches on their roster. All right, let's compare the stats. Give the Devils a letter grade. Shots on goal differential 26-24 in favor of the Devils. Power plays. Flyers were 0 for 4. Devils were 2 for 3. Thanks to Andre Palat and Nathan Bastian. Hits 22-11 in favor of the Devils. Giveaways 17-15 in favor of the Devils. Takeaways 3-1 in favor of the Flyers. Block shots 22-14 in favor of the Flyers. Time spent in the penalty box, dead even, 16 apiece. If I had to give the Devils a letter grade, I'm going to give them an A. I was leaning toward giving them an A- because I usually hate it when games have so many penalties and it slows down the pace, and sometimes players are just being goons out there. But honestly, that was the response I wanted to see from the Devils, because the game in Philadelphia from a few days ago, it wasn't their worst outing of the season, but it was far, far, far from their best. And I knew that the Devils were capable of so much better. I know they're missing some key assets in Nico Hischier, Eric Haula, Jacob Markstrom, but the good teams need to know how to adapt. And with this being a lighter part of the Devils' schedule, a lot of these guys, it's a good opportunity for them to elevate their game. So I'm going to give them an A. I was leaning towards an A-, but like I said, I just stated that this was one of, if not the best games that I've ever covered. And I think it would be foolish of me not to give them an A. So I'm going to give the Devils an A, but let me know your thoughts. What did you think of the physicality? What did you think of the response from the Devils? And do you think this is finally the time in which they turn it around? Because I know we could look at the past 30 days. During that span, the Devils have a record of 4-6-3. But as you guys know, I'm a glass half full type of person. And the Devils in their last 4 games have a record of 3-1. So there's some hope for you. But let me know your thoughts. Leave a comment down below if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on podcast streaming service, hit me up on my personal X Page app at TreyMat4 or the show's X Page app at Locked On Devils. As for today's episode, that's all the time I have for you. Continue to stay safe. Have a wonderful day in New Jersey. Go Devils. I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Thanks for listening once again.